It's time for another low-budget binge. Personally, I have a lot more fun wading through the waves of low-budgetness to find some films to avoid and some to seek out. Let's start binging. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights. I'm ML Miller. Before we begin, please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. I'll be at C2E2, the Chicago Comics and Entertainment Expo at the McCormick Place just south of downtown Chicago this year. I'm setting up shop in Artists Alley at table W5. So if you're in the Chicago area and want to check out some cool horror comics, swing by my table where I am premiering a new comic compilation of some horror short stories, young and old. It's called Scaries, and it'll be available only at C2E2 this year. Come by the booth, check out my comics, and let's chat about horror. I hope to see you there. Low Budget Binge is where we venture down the path less traveled and look at low budget, no budget, and sometimes international films that never get that top billing you see with the usual Hollywood fare. I'll indicate in the review down below where you can find these films along with their trailers. Here we go. The Clown Chainsaw Massacre, aka Night of the Clown, is new streaming on Tubi from Screamtime Films. It's directed and written by Dustin Ferguson. 10 years after murderous clown Gilbert Gacy, played by Cody Banks, was burned to death by an angry mob in his home, a group of 30-something high school kids party on down on Halloween night in the same house. Their antics reawaken Gacy's vengeful ghost, and he happened to bring his chainsaw with him. Dustin Ferguson not only manages to rip off Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but also Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street while making The Clown Chainsaw Massacre, which itself is a remake of a 1998 film called Night of the Clown. I think had Ferguson latched onto one of these films as inspiration for this homage to slasher horror, he might have been more successful. As is, other than direct lifts from these classic horror movies, there's very little substance to this film. Clocking in at 38 minutes, sans credits, it's more of an extended short film than anything else. Added to the fluffiness is an extended scene of two cast members going to a Halloween store and trying on random costumes, a long homage to Halloween where a trio of gals chat nonsensically as they walk down the street home from school, and an uncomfortably long scene where 7 people dance in place and try to act like they're at the best party they've ever been to. In no way is The Clown Chainsaw Massacre a good movie. In fact, it's quite bad, and I don't know if the intention was just to do a direct homage ripoff of old slashers, or if the director-writer was actually trying to say something. It certainly doesn't say anything new about the genre. Still, as soon as I saw this film pop up on Tubi, I simply had to watch it, and once I began watching it, I couldn't stop. It's no doubt Ferguson is a fan of the slasher genre, and the look of Leatherface with his mask painted like a clown is actually kind of cool. It's sort of reminiscent of the Pretty Woman mask Leatherface wore in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Ferguson doesn't even deliver the goods in terms of inventiveness of kills or gore, two things even the lowest budgeters put their money into usually. Instead, he just kind of half-assedly has Gacy work his way through the cast quickly with little tension, variety, or gore. There is a single shot in The Clown Chainsaw Massacre that really impressed me. It's the one used in the poster for Night of the Clown, which is another title this film goes by. It has a group of partygoers walking in silhouette across the screen along an orange evening skyline. Yes, it's reminiscent of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, but it's a wonderful shot. There is also a nice gritty Super 8 feel to the film that fits the retro subject matter, especially in the opening moments when Leatherface, the clown, goes after a scantily clad woman with his chainsaw. I guess now I can say I've seen a film that incorporates clowns, chainsaws, and a love of slashers. It's not a good film, but it's a film, one made by someone who has seen and assuredly loves the same films we all do. H.P. Lovecraft's Witch House is new on demand and digital download from Horror Wasteland Pictures International. It's directed by Bobby Easley and written by Bobby Easley, Ken Wallace, and from a story, The Dreams in the Witch House by H.P. Lovecraft. A young woman named Alice, played by Portia Chealin, on the run from her abusive ex-boyfriend, rents a room at an old apartment house on the edge of a college town to complete her studies into the relationship between architecture and the supernatural. Set up in the attic of the home, Alice begins to uncover the house's dark past involving witchcraft, other dimensions, and supernatural forces. This low-budgeter delivers a few tense moments and some decent effects work as Alice finds out more about the other dimensional happenings that surround the home she has come to live in. While it isn't a word-for-word adaptation of Lovecraft's The Dreams in the Witch House, it does have most of the crucial elements. Otherworldly forces dating back to ancient evil deities, rats that turn into humanoids, and a heavy attention to dreams and nightmares are the central horrific themes at play here, which is pretty much what the original Lovecraft story is all about. So if you're looking for a semi-faithful adaptation, this one qualifies. The effects are okay. I felt the full bodysuit of the Ratman, played by Solon Sangaras, was pretty cool, and while the otherworldly stuff is at a minimum, director Bobby Easley uses gaudy lights of varying colors to symbolize the shift between realities. Making up for the lack of budget is the decently talented cast. Shaylin is okay in the lead and emotes all of the right feelings, but there's a lack of enthusiasm that I got from the entire production that makes this adaptation almost immediately forgettable. I'm a huge fan of Lovecraft, and I'm always looking for a new take on his old tomes, but this one kind of slipped my mind almost immediately after viewing. It's a perfectly decent adaptation, just not one that stuck with me. Three Demons is new on demand and digital download from Uncork'd Entertainment. It's directed by Matt Cunningham and written by Matt Cunningham and Peter Tell. Writer Peter Tell plays Deputy Fisher, an officer assigned to watch over a dead body found in the middle of the woods until the paramedics arrive. The body looks to be part of some kind of ritualistic murder, and when Fisher finds a strange scroll, he moves the body and accidentally unleashes what seems to be a trio of demons. Deputy Fisher finds himself trapped in a never-ending nightmare, forcing him to confront what the ritual has unleashed and sins from his own past. There's an absolutely likable feel to this weird little film. In many ways, it seems like it takes inspiration from Evil Dead 2, as most of the film focuses on one man's battle with supernatural forces bent on driving him insane and stealing his soul. Peter Tell has the same kind of mix of comedic leading man goofiness mixed with a very strong dramatic edge that Bruce Campbell had in Raimi's sequel. Numerous times, while Fisher battled these weird creatures and is forced to confront his dark past, Tell's reactions felt inspired by the sometimes humorous, sometimes dramatic way Ash did the same. There are an awful lot of fun and simple horror tropes used deftly in Three Demons. The titular monsters are comprised of a ghost made from the dead body covered in a sheet, and two other more woodland creatures that linger in the forest around him. Utilizing these low-budget practical effects, some creative camera work and edits, and soaking in the ambiance of the surrounding dark woods proves to be a compelling equation for a solid amount of creeps and scares. Director Matt Cunningham seems to know what he's doing in terms of creating the right mood, mixing comical beats with legit scare sequences, and repeats this numerous times throughout the movie. If there's a weak spot in Three Demons, is that it plays so much with dream sequences, flashbacks, mental breaks, hallucinations, and possible supernatural experiences that it made me wonder what was real and what wasn't. This most likely is the intention of the film, but Three Demons never comes to a concrete conclusion, leaving you with the same ungrounded feeling that pervades throughout the entire film. This vague way of wrapping things up makes for a "what the hell did I just watch" feel by the time the credits roll, and sort of undercuts the quality dramatic performances made throughout. Peter Tell gives a very strong performance. His co-star Haley Heslip, who plays Deputy Winters, also stands out as one of the film's strong points. Not only is she a strong actress, but her no-nonsense but caring attitude bounces well off of Tell's Barney Fife-like behavior. All in all, Three Demons is a wonderful variety of compelling and genuinely scary scenes. It doesn't stick the landing, but the trip to the dramatic and tragic end is worth it. Gateway is new on demand and digital download from Dark Sky Films. It's directed and written by Niall Owens. A group of low-tier Irish drug dealers are given one last chance to grow and move a large amount of weed by their superiors. One of them thinks they have the perfect house to do it in, but what they didn't count on was that there would be a haunted gateway into an unknown dimension in one of the upper rooms. Gateway is very, very slow. I have to toss that out right up front because if you're the type who needs fast-paced thrills every 2 or 3 minutes in their horror, this might be the one to skip. For those who pack their patience and don't mind a movie bathing you in a thick feeling of dread and woe, Gateway is a thoroughly effective and unsettling horror that'll chill you to the core. People move slowly in Gateway. They're ultra-serious and rarely have a moment of levity. Most of the cast simply stare off into space, lost in thought, thinking about the reasons why they need the money and how their lives are at stake if this score isn't completed. These guys are so lost in their own mindscape and focused on their work that they don't even notice the horrifying things going on around them. Reminiscent of Session 9, this is a serious descent into the darkest of madness. The sights and sounds these guys encounter are as horrifying as they are mysterious. Though they are all scattered in the same house, they manage to lose track of one another, making the house feel like a mysterious character all on its own. There are scenes that really defy logic, where these crooks can't believe the chilling things going on in front of their eyes. Yes, this would have been a much more realistic movie had they simply talked to one another about the scary things they've seen, but that kind of takes away from the macho crook mentality that is shared by this gang of rogues. There's a scene where the lead crook, Mike, played by a gaunt Tim Creed, watches a strange woman in black doing something with one of his dead companions, and then the dead body gets up and walks away with her. It's a chilling and downright bizarre scene that feels like you are watching something you really shouldn't be watching, mostly because the scene is filmed with Mike peeking at the act from behind a cracked door. It's uncannily personal scenes like this that are scattered throughout this film and are so impactful and give you a feeling that you are bearing witness to something utterly wrong. The moments of silence and lingering camera work make for a truly haunting experience in this tense and suspense-laden Irish flick. The film was very well acted, even though everyone is very serious and focused on what very well may be their last job. The Irish dialects of the cast are very thick, which might be a challenge for some, but there's an intensity Gateway has that floats over every moment, right up to the subtle yet thunderous ending. Gateway is a brilliant and chilling little film that'll sneak up on you and drive its talons deep. Duel is new on DVD and Blu-ray from XYZ Films. It's directed and written by Riley Stearns. Set in the near future, Sarah, played by Karen Gillan, finds out she has a terminal illness and decides to undergo a program to make a clone of herself to ease the suffering of those around her. But after the clone is made, Sarah goes into remission. Because no two people can exist at once legally, a law is passed to have Sarah fight her clone to the death in 1 year. The winner gets Sarah's life. With a newfound determination, Sarah hires a self-defense coach, Trent, played by Aaron Paul, to teach her how to fight and kill her opponent. But as the day grows near, Sarah begins having doubts as to whether she really wants to go through with this gladiatorial battle. Yes, the concept is ridiculous. In no way would it make your loved ones feel better to have a clone of you around reminding them of how they've lost the real you. It'd be like stuffing your dead animal and setting it up in the living room to pet every now and then. But people actually do that, and if that's the case, maybe some kind of batshit crazy person might agree to do what Sarah does in this film. Granted, Sarah is not exactly all there to begin with. She's a somewhat robotic, somewhat neurotic basket case who rarely leaves her apartment, is very particular about pretty much everything, and basically lives a very secluded and sad lifestyle, despite the fact that she has a boyfriend, Peter, played by Beulah Cole, who constantly goes on business trips and most likely is having an affair with his assistant. Gillen plays up all of these quirks, but honestly, I don't know if this is simply her demeanor or that she's kind of finds herself typecast in these robotic roles. I never saw her on Doctor Who, but Gillen's performance as Sarah is very similar to her role as the vengeful blue cyborg Nebula from Guardians of the Galaxy. Either way, whether this is kind of her thing or if she is just playing a more nuanced version of Nebula, Gillen really portrays an interesting and downright peculiar character in Duel. For the most part, this is kind of an irreverent comedy. It understands that the situation Sarah finds herself in is kooky, and while everyone plays things straight, the comedy emerges quite often. I found myself surprisingly amused by this offbeat situation Sarah finds herself in, and especially the way she reacts to it. After immediately finding out she has a terminal illness, Sarah's only response is, "Why am I not crying about this?" Though she may play someone who may be slightly on the autistic scale, but most definitely is on the quirky scale, Gillen makes Sarah likable. I couldn't help but root for her to gain the confidence and skill to reclaim her life. Part of the fun is seeing Sarah's double acclimate all too well into Sarah's life. Her boyfriend likes Sarah's double more. Her mom even seems to like her better. While Sarah is focused on beating her double, she begins losing the life she had, which is kind of a good thing because it was quite a miserable life at that. Seeing this transformation in Sarah is subtle, but Gillen really fires up the nuances to make these little changes work. This basically is a movie about a wake-up call. It's a story about a person finding out how to appreciate her own life. Adding to the quirkiness is Aaron Paul's training as Trent. He's training Sarah to murder someone, and the matter-of-factly way he teaches her to kill in various different ways and harden herself to do so are absurd and very darkly humorous. Paul has had the misfortune of being typecast after Breaking Bad, but this performance, which is equally off-kilter as Sarah, shows that he can do much more than simply say, "Betch," all the time. I found the ending of Duel to be tragically poetic and outside of the norm. It really resonated with me and speaks to how good the character of Sarah really is. While it suggests a big bombastic battle, like one that was shown at the beginning where a clone and the original go head-to-head with various weapons on a battlefield with a bloodthirsty crowd watching and cheering, the end is much less spectacular, yet resonates so much more. Walking away from Duel, I felt uplifted and deflated all at once. It's a sheer tragedy as someone has to die, but the way it plays out is altogether brilliant, shocking, and heartbreaking. I look forward to seeing Gillen in more movies, as she is an oddball actress who doesn't go for typical roles. And you should look forward to seeing Duel, a totally bonkers but subtly poignant story about claiming one's life as your own. See this weird little sci-fi flick. I think it's going to surprise you. Finally, this week, I have a totally gnarly little indie from Argentina called Welcome to Hell, aka Bienvenidos al Infierno. New on demand and digital download and streaming from Screambox from Cinedigm. It's directed by Jimena Monteoliva and written by Camilo Di Cabo. A young Argentinian girl named Lucia, played by Costanza Cardillo, gets involved with the lead singer of a death metal band named Christian, played by Damian Salomon. After she becomes pregnant with his child, Lucia realizes that the band has horrible intentions for her and her baby. When she flees their flop house and returns home to her abuela, played by Marta Lubos, the band eventually finds her and lays siege on the home. Now Lucia and her abuela must battle alone against devil-worshipping rockers out for a sacrifice. Welcome to Hell is a dank and filthy little movie. It takes place in impoverished places where there seems to be very little for anyone to look forward to or take inspiration from. The settings are decrepit and dismal, and the band and their actions are equally off-putting. I have to say, Welcome to Hell really made me hate these antagonists. They're the worst kind of people, abusing Lucia and anyone they encounter, all in order to achieve some kind of reward for their evil actions. This is an extremely dour film, one where even those who survive are cursed. It's definitely not the feel-good horror film of the year. Instead, it's one effective home invasion / devil-worshipping death metal horror flick. Shining bright in the middle of all of this muck is Costanza Cardillo. who plays Lucia. She is bright-eyed and hopeful, pressing forward even when everything seems to be against her. There's a very subtle arc Lucia takes where she develops an understanding and love for her abuela, who is mute, yet leaves her inspirational messages tacked up all over their meager home. Seeing the two of them repair and reform their relationship after Lucia has obviously gone through a rebellious stage in her life redeems the story and gives a vague sign of hope. Cardio is stunning as the very pregnant Lucia, still fighting tooth and nail to save herself, her abuela, and her child. Though she doesn't have a single line, Marta Lubos is wonderful as the stoic abuela, even though her resemblance to Willem Dafoe distracted me quite a bit. And man, I hated this band. While I'm not a fan, nor do I hate death metal, the band is simply a bunch of bullying scumbags, and I couldn't wait to see them get their comeuppance at the hands of Lucia and her abuela. They're grimy, unhinged, and truly despicable villains. I felt a visceral hate towards them because of how cruel and callous they are while tormenting a pregnant woman and her elderly grandmother. I guess that makes them great villains, but I honestly clapped and laughed with joy as they met their makers in the climax. While I feel the film itself sort of glamorized the rock star lifestyle of the band in some weird way, Welcome to Hell is definitely the film you want to show your teenage daughter as a cautionary tale to stay away from the bad dudes. Director Jimenea Monteoliva contrasts the innocence of Lucia with the band's viciousness deftly, making the whole film unsettling to watch, like a predator playing with its prey before eventually eating it. The gore is excessive, but not over the top. There's lots of it, but things are played pretty real, making the deaths resonate all the more. While I feel the decisions made in the final act are a bit of a tonal shift, I was satisfied with how Welcome to Hell ended up. This is an especially gnarly movie, not one for the squeamish, but it is an effective story about an innocent fighting off the blackest of souls. I don't know if I was prepared for Welcome to Hell, but it sure left its mark on me after viewing.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your